yields and whether you can make sure that your connections are capturing the proper, the relationships are capturing the proper interannual variability, or are capturing the right sensitivities. So if we can go, for example, here's my Central American project, if I could go to Nicaragua and find yield level for each of these territories in Nicaragua and compare it to the 30 years of meteorology that I have, that would be very helpful. Yeah. Unfortunately, what we find is, in Nicaragua, if you go back 30 years, there were several armed conflicts, there were several revolutions, and the interannual yield that you see in the Foreign Agricultural Service or the FAO data is not climate limited in many situations. So you have to be careful about if there happened to be a slightly above average rainfall year and a revolution burned all of the fields in a given country, it will look like rainfall and yield are very strongly anti-correlated, when in reality that's a third aspect that is not captured.
Nothing to do with climatic conditions.
And similar in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh 30 years ago was East Pakistan. It was a very different situation, so you have to be careful. But this is why we want to go back and get the yields and see if we can filter out those things.
But if the people on this planet, if they can put the yield data set by themselves,
it would be fantastic.
like Google Sites or Google Maps, so that would be helpful.
Absolutely, it would be helpful, especially if you could go to something like a county level yield. In the United States, we have counties here.
Administrative boundary.
Something like that, especially if there were some official. Because again, there's one of the things that we have at Columbia University is a psychology department looking at environmental applications. And one thing that they have found over and over again is that people feel extremes much more strongly than the science feels extremes. So, for example, you may have people, if they are self-reporting, saying this is the worst year, when in reality it was just as bad as 5 years earlier and 5 years earlier. And therefore you want to have, I think if there's numbers involved, if it's a administrative boundary where there's actually a number calculated and that number is reported, then you can really start to see what's going on. I worry a little bit because of the psychological effects of just self-reported above, below average, although I can tell you I would very, very much like even that, because right now there's nothing in many parts of the world. So if we could see that there is, a good year, or even just above average, below average, would be very helpful.
Well, 2 years ago, I have visited Google and exchanged information there.
Yes.
But the Google people told me that they are just providing the tools.
Yes.
So they will not generate they will generate nothing.
Yeah. But I think if you were able to come to them with an idea for how a tool could be applied, if only that tool existed, that is what they're interested in, because then they make the tool to make that application possible. So they are very much in the interest of finding good ideas. And then trying to make the technology meet that idea. So, we've worked with Google people as well. Oftentimes Google will, if they have a tool without a task, they will do a competition of who can best apply this tool. And then alternatively, they may put out a competition or a call for proposals for new tools and then fund a couple of those. So that's kind of how I have seen them act. And in the meantime, we went to them for this AgMIP project saying, this is a very nice project in need of a technological infrastructure, and we hope that they could provide it. And like all of these things, it's months of back and forth, trying to get meetings, trying to follow up. So that's the way we've approached it.